Hi everyone, I'm Autistic Ange. This is a podcast for adults who recently found out they're autistic and are looking for other autistic people like them. So if you hear like a lawnmower or something in the background, the guy across the street's mowing his lawn. Our house isn't tiny, but it's not like really big either, so it doesn't even matter if I go to the back of the house. It'll still be heard, so hopefully you can't hear it, but in case you do, sorry. And also, I don't know how to edit, and I don't want to learn how to edit because I'm pretty sure that will be very confusing for me, so very sorry. But today I want to talk about the diagnosis of Autism Spectrum Disorder because I don't like it. Why is this something people are getting diagnosed with? Because ordinary people don't know how to accept that like others think much differently than them. If this is your first episode, I chose not to go and get an official diagnosis, which I talked about a little bit more in depth in one of the earlier episodes, but, that might put some people off if I don't have, like, an official diagnosis, and I understand, and, that's all right, but I know who I am, and I am, for sure, 1,000% autistic, so, I don't need to go and pay for somebody to tell me that. So for context, I'm not a therapist. I cannot, nor do I want to diagnose people, but I worked in addictions counseling for several years, plus I went to college for criminal justice and psychology. And I think I've mentioned this before, but people have been my special interest ever since I was a child. So, I'm just going to share this, even though I really don't want to, but nobody who listens to this knows me, so that's a little bit helpful, I guess. So I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder several years ago. It was so devastating because anyone who ever knows what BPD is knows that there's such a stigma surrounding it, especially with women and BPD. And many therapists and addiction counselors don't even want to work with somebody with that diagnosis. In our second or third session, I had informed my therapist that I felt like I was still missing something, not understanding certain behaviors I was engaging in. The first session or two, very informative, but I don't know. I just felt like something was still a little bit off. So I asked her if she diagnosed me with anything other than complex PTSD. And she said borderline personality disorder. Or, at least traits. But like I said, that's devastating. It's so embarrassing. And I'm not going to lie, I had my own thoughts about BPD. And there have been times where I didn't want to work with somebody who had it. I'm not proud at all to admit that. It's just the truth. So yeah, when I got that diagnosis, it definitely opened up my eyes and made me more accepting of myself and other people especially who have that diagnosis. So yeah. At that point in time, it did make sense to me. I think you have to meet 5 out of the 9 criteria to get a full diagnosis of BPD, and I didn't. But a lot of the things that I did not identify with, I actually did years before, impulsivity, for example. I was super impulsive with many, many things. And now I'm completely the opposite, not an impulsive person at all. But I did identify with black and white thinking, personalizing, and splitting, which is viewing somebody either as all good or all bad. So even though this person is usually mostly good in quotes, just one bad thing can make you completely forget about that person's positive qualities because now they're quote bad. Does that make sense? it's a fucked up way of thinking. And I hated it. Like, like it was just, it's so weird how you are like, you're feeling such intense emotion that the person who you think, or who maybe, I don't know, contributed to like your current state of whatever, that you have a hard time seeing anything like positive in them just because like you're really upset at something that they did or that you perceived that they did. It was like, it's just trapped thinking. I don't know how else to describe it. I couldn't get out of it. It took a long time to get out of it, and I just never understood how this was possible, like that your mind can do this shit to you. Anyways, excuse me. But excuse me. Talking sucks for me. I'm 100% sure my mother has BPD, so I'm not going to deny that I have had it or still have it or whatever. Though, like, I can't confirm this because I stopped speaking to her years ago. However, I believe the word disorder in borderline personality disorder is pretty accurate. I hate the borderline word because, like, there definitely should be a better word than that. But at the time when I got that diagnosis, I identified with it and I set out working on those negative behaviors I still had. But yeah, for me, like I said, BPD, like, it felt like a disorder. It's disordered thinking. Everything's, you're irrational about many, many things. It can make people feel like they're actually losing their mind, which was my experience. But you're not stuck with borderline personality disorder your entire life. There are so many tools available that you truly can learn to think differently and act differently. And if, like, for me, I responded really well to dialectical behavioral therapy because it taught me that, like, two opposites can be true at the same time. Like the whole but and thing or but also thing, you know what I mean? So, like, I knew my BPD had gone away or, like, gone dormant or whatever when I had bought, like, my third borderline personality disorder workbook, and I couldn't get past the first 10 pages of exercises because they just didn't apply to me anymore. Like, I moved past all that stuff because I was working on myself. And I just knew, like, I didn't exhibit those characteristics anymore, but something still felt off. And that was, like, maybe 4 years ago that I felt like I had overcome my BPD diagnosis. And I want to say it was, like, maybe, like, 3 years before that when I got the diagnosis or something. So, yeah, so, like, I thought, like, well, look at me, like, I did all this work. But then, like, I realized, okay, like, I don't have these characteristics anymore, so, like, why don't I feel, like, whole? Like, whole or complete? I don't know if that's a good description. There was still a missing piece. And so, I guess to shorten this potentially long story, here are simple facts. As of January of this year, my wife had been in grad school for several months. She worked full-time. She went to therapy once a week. She had homework, like, all the things. And I was doing whatever I could to make life easier for her, like making her meals, doing her laundry, but I was feeling emotionally neglected. And, also because by the time she would get home from work, everyone else during the day got her best self, but I got the tired leftovers. And boy, did I start resenting her. Totally not healthy, but I did it. God, I had taken an extended break from therapy because of the pandemic. I didn't want to do Zoom sessions, and I did not feel like texting my therapist to be like, hey, are you doing sessions in person again or not? Plus, there was this huge part of me that felt like my wife needed more therapy because it was all her fault I was feeling neglected in our marriage. So yeah, is that magical thinking? I don't know. But it definitely was not accurate. But, like, I totally felt like it was. So I guess I had put myself on a pedestal. And, I'm pretty embarrassed about that now. But, I mean, like, for lack of a better explanation, I didn't know what the fuck was going on. So I just had to come up with a story to explain away my feelings. And the majority of the time, those stories are like never fucking true. But like, I need something to explain why I feel the way I do, because what else am I gonna do with those feelings? They have to go somewhere. They have to make sense to me somehow. And plus, like, you would think with all the skills and shit I'd learned from my therapist up to that point, that I'd just be able to ask my wife if we could sit down and have an actual conversation, but I never did that. I was very passive aggressive, and the more I was doing stuff for her and not feeling like I mattered, the worse things in my head got. So, like, suddenly I was crying nearly every night, like, just on and off for hours. I could not control it. Like, I've been through a lot in life, like most people have, but like, I've never been that sad. I've never cried and not had the ability to stop or, quote, control myself. So the fact that I was constantly crying was quite alarming to me. I journal twice a day. Like, I regularly asked myself, what's going on? Why am I acting like this? Why am I being mean to my wife? Because then the guilt sets in, and I just felt like I was being a shitty spouse. Like, I don't know what I was looking for, but I knew I had to look for it. Or, like, I guess at the time I didn't know. Does that make sense? Like, I knew that there was something. I knew there was something, and I was pissed. I was frustrated. Why couldn't I find what this thing is? Like, I felt like I knew myself so well. What is this fucking piece I'm missing? But anyways, so, like, all that to say, autism is not a disorder. I am a very neat and organized person. I plan things out well in advance, and I always show up to places on time. I'm an excellent worker wherever I went, and now I work for myself, and yeah, I'm pretty good. So, I give myself a raise. When I start something, I finish it. I'm kind to people now. So yeah, like, my wiring is much different than the wiring of an ordinary person, but like, how is autism a disorder? Like, I'm conflicted about some of the characteristics of autism that I have, because it's like I have to remind myself that these don't mean I'm a walking disorder, because I'm not. I just think differently, feel differently, see differently. I'm not special by any means. But I know I'm not disordered. And like, I understand the assumptions people make and the things they think they know about autism, because like, I was the same way. I had no reason to know the ins and outs of autism, because why would I if it wasn't even on my radar? So yeah, like, it's just that word disorder. Like, that word to me, I don't know. I think you get it. I just, I don't agree that it's a diagnosis. I think it should be taken out of the DSM. Because it's not like, you're born like that. You're born with your wiring like that. Like, it is you. Like, this is me. Like, how am I a disorder? I'm not. Like, whether you're autistic or ordinary or whatever, like, all of us have our own shit. All of us go through things. We process things in our own way. I don't feel that ordinary people are disordered or anything like that, or, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, but I don't like that word. I do like spectrum, because I don't know, like, I like that, because it's just like a range. Like, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I am, and you've probably heard this 1,000 times, but here I am, I'm going to say it. That saying, like, once you've met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person. Because yeah, like, while there are things that we all experience that are similar, like, we're all very, very unique in like, how our wiring is, our likes and dislikes. Like, we're very unique. God, does that sound like narcissistic? Oh, God, it probably does. I don't mean it to sound narcissistic. I mean, like, hopefully you guys know what I'm trying to say. It just needs to come out at the DSM. People need to stop viewing it as a diagnosis, because that's like it's part of the problem of like why nobody knows what the fuck autism really is except people who are autistic. And I'm like, now I'm one. Well, I've always been one, but I guess now I know. And yeah, like, I love being autistic. That's the missing piece, that was when everything fell into place, and I felt like, oh, I finally have a place on this planet, and there are people like me who think like me, like, it's not just me. I'm not some fucked up person. And being autistic, it's just cool. I guess, I mean, for me, it's like, I like having explanations for things. Like, who doesn't? Excuse me for my dry mouth. Hold on. Fucking dry mouth. I don't know what I was saying just now. Fucking marijuana. Yeah. I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure that's all I had about this subject. Yeah. I gotta go now, because I don't know, like, was that all I had to say? I mean, if this is confusing, listen to my communication episode, because, like, it's super hard to communicate, and, like, so I'm just gonna go, but I hope this episode was somewhat informative, I guess, or I don't know if it's informative, it's just my take on it. My opinion that autism is a spectrum. It's not a disorder. I'm so sick of that word when it's used to describe us. So anyway, that's all I've got for now. This was just me recording into an app on my phone, hoping people find me and listen and relate, and hopefully have a similar experience to what I had when I heard myself on somebody else's podcast for the first time. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.